Okay, in this section, I would like to introduce some critiques by liberals or liberalists. And I want you to listen from now what I'm going to say very carefully. Critics by liberalists. The first, liberalists argue that player's choice, the realist notion of player's choice, is made in terms of egoism, not rationality. How come the A's betrayal and B's cooperation is the best and rational choice? So certainly, DC is not the rational choice. It's an egoist choice. So is it a rational and sustainable choice that A betrays an agreement and takes advantage of B? And also, it is sustainable. And liberals argue that certainly CC is the rational choice. So the order of choice would be like this, according to liberals. CC, DC, DD, CD. Do you remember that? Realists argue that the order of choice is DC, CC, DD, CD. But liberals argue CC, DC, DD, CD. Let me explain more details of why liberals argue CC is the rational choice. If prisoner's dilemma game is played repeatedly, players would cooperate each other. Now, criminal A and criminal B, who were friends, they robbed the bank, hid the money in a certain place, and next day, both of them were arrested. And police provided some suggestions, and both of them confessed. Now, and both of them went to prison for 5 years. And they get out of prison after 5 years, and again, they don't have money. So they got together again and said, let's rob a bank another time, one more time. And this time, even after we get arrested, let's not confess anymore. They promised with their fingers. Promised. Same thing. They robbed the bank successfully. They hid the money in a certain place. And next morning, they were arrested. And what would they do? 5 years ago, both of them confessed. Now, if they do not confess, and both of them will go to prison in 6 months, and after that, they will spend the luxury life for the rest of their lives with the money they stole. So if the prisoner's game is played repeatedly, players would cooperate each other. In this case, each player begins to realize the cooperation will be better off in the long run. So this situation could be well explained by French philosopher about 200 years ago, Rousseau's stag hunt game. Stag hunt. Already about 200 years ago, Rousseau explained the cooperation among the states with his theory of stag hunt. So what is the stag hunt game by Rousseau? In a French village, a very poor village, famine hit the village so many times. So all the men of the village got together and they agreed Next morning, all men go up to a mountain, and there are many stags. Stags are the male deer, and chase the stag and share the meat together. They all agreed. So next morning, there's a mountain here, and all the men surrounded the mountain and chased the stag up there. And player A here, he did not eat anything for the last 2 days. His family not either. He was very hungry, but since people agreed to chase a stag, and after they catch the stag, they all share the meat together, he stayed with the other people, went up the mountain. He was so hungry and hot. And suddenly, stag here, excuse me. Ain't I a good painter? Stag here, stag. And suddenly a hare. Oops. Hare is a rabbit. Rabbit, hare. Hare is running down from the mountain. So from that moment, he hesitated. What should I do? Keep going up to a mountain to catch a stag, which is unlikely, or get the hare, and have a decent meal with his family that night. So he chose to chase hare and caught the hare, and he declined the mountain. And his neighbors kept chasing the stag, but they could not catch stag that day. But at night, they all realized that A swerved, deviated their agreements, and had his mouth and stomach full with a small hare, and also his family. So they get angry. So next hunt of stag hunt, they did not call A. So A finally starved to death. So this is the experience, empirical experience that people learn a lesson from. If the prisoner's dilemma game is played repeatedly, A or A's friend B knows that even if there was a hare right next to him, it's better off to stay in there and chase the stag, and then, in other words, cooperate with other people and have the better results later. So two hunters must decide separately whether to hunt a stag or hare. So both hunters know the only way to successfully hunt a stag is with the other's help. So one hunter can catch a hare alone with less effort and less time. But it is far less than a stag and has much less meat. But it's good enough for his family. So Rousseau therefore claims it would be much better for each hunter to give up the small and easy reward for the hare. Instead, each hunter should choose the more ambitious and far more rewarding goal of getting the stag. This is the stag hunt theory by Rousseau. So what about the stag hunt game in social cooperation situation? Player A gets stag and player B gets stag, they had 3 and 3 respectively. Both of them get hair, 1 and 1. But if A swerves, he gets a hair, and B chases stag. A gets 2, B gets 0. And the other way around. A gets stag. Finally, he didn't get anything. B gets hair. B gets 2. If we change this to the international relations, country A's cooperate, both and cooperate. Same thing, 3 and 3. Both of them get 3 as a benefit. And defect, 1 and 1. A defect, B cooperate, A gets only 2. A cooperate, B defects, B gets only 2. This could be a useful analogy for social cooperation, such as international agreement on climate change, particularly international agreements on climate change. So still, do you think still that this case is a rational choice? That's what the idealists ask. No, certainly this case is a CC is a rational choice. So CC comes before DC, and DD and CD. This is an order according to liberalists. So DC is not a rational choice. It's an egoistic choice. CC is the rational choice. CC is the rational choice. Also, in order to achieve the CC in real world, realists argue that hegemonic country is necessary. But liberalists argue that states' cooperation is made spontaneously through institutions, such as international organizations. And when states cooperate with each other, they have inertia of cooperation, and also sensitive of the benefits out of cooperation. So peace of the world, for the peace of the world, existence of hegemonic country is not the necessary and sufficient condition. It could be a sufficient but not necessary condition. My final question in this section is that explain the present international inter-Korean relations with the chicken game. How would you explain the current inter-Korean relations with chicken game? Certainly, even in chicken game, both ways is the rational choice, unlike the realist arguments. Realists argue the A's goes straight, B swerves. But it's the it induces total humiliation of B. So obviously this one, CC, in terms of the prisoner's dilemma. So if we explain the inter-Korean relations with the chicken game, it's a prisoner's dilemma. Same thing. CC is better than DC. So it is very tragic that we don't see any CC in inter-Korean relations after 1953, the end of the Korean War. But now the final question is this. And then how could we achieve CC in the inter-Korean relations. It's a very peculiar and significant and hard question to answer. How do we achieve CC in the inter-Korean relations?